Guitar Stories Podcast, your number one show for everything guitar.
Hey everybody!
Hello.
It's time for us to be so excited to be on a podcast together.
Yeah. Hey,
How
Andy.
you doing, Dan?
You know what? It's episode 25.
I can't believe we made it to 25, and I'm super zoomed in. Let me change that. Whoa, it's getting worse. How's your week been, my friend?
Good. What about you?
Well, I have no idea. I am super busy. I'm super happy. Time is just flying by, and it's just there's just guitars coming in and going out, and being on the screen, and then being in my hands, and then being away. It's absolutely insane.
I hear you. And our hair is growing to lockdown length. Mine too.
Yeah, well, mine's just getting taller, if anything. So, just bringing the YouTube chat up. So hello to everybody who is watching us live on the YouTube. Welcome.
And also hello to everyone who's listening in the podcast, wherever you are, on your way to work, at home on the couch. It doesn't matter. Welcome to episode 25 of the Guitar Stories podcast.
Amazing. We started this 25 episodes ago, over a year ago, but we didn't start out like so regularly at first, as we were just having fun. But now it's a serious job, and everything's serious from now on. So no more fun, Dan. No messing around.
Nope.
None of that business.
Nope. Did we get a comment from a viewer who said he's looking for a more serious podcast?
Yeah, he we did some work on the Ibanez release, the original release back on the 1st, and yeah, he said, well, pretty much screw this. I need a more serious video channel or something. So sorry. Nice to see the people in the chat all having fun and talking to each other. It is great to be here. I enjoy Tuesday nights so much, just to hang out with everybody and talk gear, and talk what could be something quite controversial today. So I'm hoping that we're going to get a bit of banter going with the people in the chat. And if you're listening to this after the live event, then I hope you're going to banter with us as well. But we'll leave spaces so you can, like Dora the Explorer, you can respond.
Well,
is that okay? Bing.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh. Dan, you want to jump straight into the guitar news?
Yeah, please.
Bam, bam, bam. So we got some news for you, and I'd say the most important news of the week, Dan, is something we missed last week. There's a new Indiana Jones game coming out, and I'm super excited. Super excited.
Yeah.
I know it's not guitar news, but it's news in my life. I grew up playing Indiana Jones click and point and click adventure games. Now we've got 2021 technology. Indiana Jones, the whip.
The whip. Important question. Which one did you prefer, Fate of Atlantis or The Last Crusade?
Got to be The Last Crusade. Come on.
Nah, for me it was definitely Atlantis. You had three different narratives that you could go to with Sophia Hapgood. That was amazing. I think I played that like 10 times.
I couldn't grasp the fact that it was a non-canon Indiana Jones story.
But it was great.
I'll have to go back and replay it. I'll answer that question with a more informed view. But right now, I had to do Last Crusade because of, it was the movie. I didn't get that there were non-canon things back then. I was just a simple chap.
All right.
But there is some more news. We've got a little event happening online called NAMM Believe in Music.
Which is interesting to see virtual NAMM happening. I mean, I was like, I didn't really have that on the radar, and then all of a sudden there was a whole lineup of press conferences and releases, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you think it's necessary? Did you catch anything so far?
No, because I caught that it was mainly the stuff that I didn't go to NAMM for. I wasn't so interested in NAMM. It was the sort of the behind the scenes sort of supporting the music industry and actually making music, whereas I go to NAMM for the gear. So, or rather, I go to NAMM. I say it like I've been a regular. I've been there twice, but I catch up with NAMM for new gear releases, and no, it's more about the sort of stuff that I see people paying a lot of attention to at NAMM, and I just walk past, like going more gear, and those people get in my way. But what about you?
I miss NAMM. I made a post last night because I was a little bit emotional. I was browsing through a couple of pictures. It was like kind of hard to imagine that 12 months ago we were there, meeting so many amazing people, having such a great time. And
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I really wonder if there will be a regular NAMM 2022, or if it's just like going from one difficult situation to another one. It's kind of hard to predict. But at the moment, like I still live from the old memories, because usually, like you said, it was a great time. It was not really just about gear. It was about meeting people, meeting your heroes, being like changing from being a rep for some company or being a YouTuber to being a fanboy on some occasions. Totally guilty.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I really miss that. Yeah.
Yeah, working for Tolman when I was coming to NAMM was an absolute pleasure. Hard work, super hard work. My goodness, is that intense. And Guillaume's in the chat right now, so he can certainly back me up on that. But yeah, absolutely joy. I'm just trying to get the chat up on my iPad so I can follow the chat. There we go. And now I'm going to turn the volume down. All right. Enough messing around, Dan. Come on, this is a serious podcast. Let's stop messing around. Let's do new gear. Andy's pick of the week.
Andy's pick of the week.
Gonna have to release that on Spotify or something. People are gasping for that thing. Yeah, so my pick of the week, my gear of the week, which is hard. So we've limited it to 3 things each. Not the 3 things that are currently on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. On screen right now are the brand new Vox VGH headphones. VGH, virtual guitar headphones, maybe? Who knows? But one of the new releases, because we can't choose everything, one of the things I was excited about was the VGH headphones. We've got a rock version in red. We've got an AC30 version in cream, and then a bass version in blue. And I'm really interested in these because, number one, they're going to be about €99. And number 2, it's got practice stuff built in, you know? So
what do they do? Give us a little bit of a rundown.
The amp plug, you know, those series of things you plug into your guitar, then you plug headphones into that. It's basically that in a headphone.
All right. Okay. So even smaller.
So rather than plug, so rather than if you see the picture on the screen, if you're watching, then the cable actually runs to the guitar rather than something else, I guess. So the guitars go into the headphones. I saw that a friend Charlie did the official Vox video. And I don't know if the sounds were coming from the headphones there, because I don't know how you would mic that sounds, but she certainly seemed very excited and did a really good job of making me feel excited about the headphones. And I'm a true believer that anything that excites you to play guitar to practice, and anything that is convenient that you can just plug in and go, is a good thing, especially at €99, give or take.
Looks pretty interesting. Do you know, is it like a regular line cable that you plug in, or can you also use it for, I don't know?
You can also use it for music, and you can also, there's an aux in as well.
All right, okay. So that makes it very versatile.
I very briefly spoke to Vox this morning, and they are going to send some out so I can test them. Yeah, hello, Vox.
Hello,
I need
Mr.
Vox on the phone. No, Vox. So they're going to send some over. I said send the bass one if you want, you know, but don't worry too much about it. But yeah, apparently that's got a built-in compressor on the bass one, so it actually makes your bass sound good.
That's
I don't
pretty
know.
cool. Yeah.
But there's effects and all sorts of things in there. I don't know much about it. They didn't release much information. However, there they are. That's what they do. Hopefully it's affordable for some people and we can plug guitars into them and play more. But I think that's a really good price because you've got headphones like 99 euros. You've got headphones that are not guitar processors for about 80 euros that have guitar brands on them.
Yeah.
I don't know. So
if you want to crank it up, do you have to crank up the volume too? I mean, if it's got a compressor, you can probably avoid that, right?
we'll find out. Stay tuned to the channel, everybody.
Yeah.
But I hope so. I have high hopes for that. I really do. So we'll find out.
That'll be an interesting review if you just have the headphones on your head and then there's no sound for the audience.
What else do you think I'm going to do?
It's great.
I'm having an amazing time. You should totally check these headphones out.
I mean,
well, the plan is
watching your unboxing videos, so there's probably a market for that.
If people watch me take a guitar out of a box, they'll watch me play headphones. No, I hope. Hopefully, I can communicate the fun I am or am not having, depending on how good the headphones are. But the other plan is that if you're watching again, Bob behind me on my right will be having some holes drilled in his ears, and then some cables fed up through them with some lav mics, and I'll be putting the headphones on Bob, and he will be listening to them so that the listeners can hear that. I don't know if that's going to work, but it certainly sounds like a fun project.
It sounds brutal.
If you don't know who Bob is, then he's my Focus stand-in at the back. He's the guy that does all the work. Okay, my next pick, if I may move on, Dan, is the Boss series of pedal boards, which is not the most exciting of things, but you know, you need things to put things on. Otherwise, they just fall off, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's the BCB30X, which is a 3-pedal jobby with no power supply, no line in, line out. It's just a box to put your things in, and then just got a carry case, and there you go. Off you go.
All right.
I don't know anybody who only has 3 pedals these days, but that seems like a challenge.
Fine. Yeah. You got to use like the smallest wah in the world.
True. Or put the pedal board on the wah.
There you go.
A wah pedal board. A pedal board that is a wah pedal. Right. Somebody write that down.
There you go.
Somebody make that and give me money. So we've got a few models. We've got the BCB30X. We've got the 90. 90? Yeah, that's the 90X. I beg your pardon. So that's got sockets at the top for power and in and out. That's designed to hold 9 pedals. Boss pedals, of course, but it doesn't just work with Boss pedals. What I like with this, and it's also the model above it, and you can see the cables coming through the foam underneath. And that's cool. It looks super tidy, which my pedal boards are often not. And I think that might be super easy. What I'd like to know is if once you've cut the holes, is that it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they sort of those magic foam things that go back together? Or can you buy replacement inserts? Because I don't keep the same pedal board for very long.
Yeah, that would be smart. Or even if you have like small patches that you can just like put together like a puzzle and just replace the patches that you don't need or add different sizes.
Yeah.
Or cut it to the size you need it. Like kind of do it yourself board.
Yeah, now you're talking. So yeah, because people often change. I mean, they may not change them as radically as I do. So if you're going to take out, say, the Angry Driver in that picture, you might drop in some other drive pedal that's around the same size. But who knows?
Yep.
Who knows? There's also one more. I know it's not a very exciting pedal board. That's the BCB 1000, Dan. Doesn't that sound impressive?
Got wheels. It's like a carry-on
That motherfucker's
case.
got wheels.
Yeah.
I want to get one of those and see if I can drag it up a mountain. I think that'd be amazing fun.
I'm just wondering, like, if you carry that to the airport. Well, I got all my pedals, but no slips, no socks, and no t-shirts. Just pedals.
No soap. That's all I need is a collection of pedals.
There you go.
To be fair, that's true for quite a few people, I would say. And then there's another picture of it with just some pedals on. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
That is the new Boss selection of pedal boards. So not very exciting, not a guitar, not pedals themselves, but a pedal board. And then for my third pick of the week, if I may, is this. The Blackstar Studio 10 6L6 in Seafoam Green, or Surf Green, I think they're calling it.
It looks great.
So
is
it's
that new?
the model itself is not new. Thank you for asking. But the brand, this you throw me now. Thank you. The Studio 10 6L6 is not new, but in that color, it is new, and I think that changes everything because it shouldn't do, but it kind of does. It makes the amp look really classy, whereas the standard black one kind of just sat there with all the other black amps.
All right. Okay.
I don't know if it's going to make it sound any better. Being a 6L6, it's very Fender-based, and 10 watts makes it kind of perfect for the studio and or home practice.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have quite a lot of clean headroom in there, but you might be able to get some drive out of it. Otherwise, you've got attenuators, but at 10 watts, it should be pretty interesting. And then there's another picture, I think. Where is it? Blackstar Studio 10. Where's my other picture? Come on up. There you are. Yeah, so we've got input gain, tone, reverb, and something that's really fuzzy, but I think it says volume. I'm going to guess.
Right. You have one 6L6 tube, right?
And it's got a drive knob and an effects loop.
All right. Okay. Well, that's important. So,
yeah, for an amp of that size to have an effects loop is quite cool. I think it's going to be around $500. I don't know, but it really seems very, very interesting. Let's go to the chat. Eric says 1 6L6, no thanks. Sarang says Blackstar are the kings of entry-level tube amps. So we'll find out.
$500 is not necessarily like the lowest you can get, right? Like what would be like an immediate competitor to that kind of amp?
At 10 watts? I don't know. A lot more amps are a lot higher, but you've got like a Fender Champ. Just happened to have on the floor here. that wasn't scripted. I just happened to have it here for a section later on in the podcast.
Great.
I don't know is the answer to that. I probably should have researched that question. Let's ask the people in the chat. What other amps are about 10 watts and under 500? There's a lot of stuff that's around 5 watts and a lot cheaper. There's Bugera, for example. There's Harley Benton. There's probably Fender. There's some Marshall stuff like the Marshall Origin. That's now discounted to be under that price.
Mm-hmm.
But do they come in surf green, Dan?
No.
So there you go.
And color is very important for tone.
Yeah. It's going to be instantly surfier, instantly springier, instantly more wet, saltier. I don't know. What I will say is I'm interested to try it out, or at least hear somebody else playing it, which AC10, thank you very much. Pro Junior and the Vox AT10, Fender Bass Breaker. There we go. Our beautiful people in the chat making us look better than we actually are. Thank you so much.
I like the looks. I got to say, I really like the looks. It looks neat. I like that it's got an effects loop. In terms of tone, with 1 6L6, you really got to see how much you get out of it. But yeah, it's worth a try. So you're getting the amp for review?
I haven't arranged that, but I would really like to arrange that because I find that interesting. And reviewing gear that I find interesting is my favorite thing, rather than just if it's new or if they're going to pay me. So yeah, that's on my interesting list.
The best is if you hit both worlds, right? Getting paid for reviewing interesting gear.
It's the magic 3, Dan. Hot, paid for. I think I like it. Golden Trinity.
Awesome. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. I'd like to know your pick of the week. Would that be okay?
Yeah, absolutely. Please.
Let's have Dan's theme tune.
Dan's pick
dance. All right. Oh, we've got the. Oh, I've accidentally put the wrong guitar on the screen. Never mind. Looks like we're starting there, Dan.
All right, we'll start with that then. No worries. Big surprise to everyone. Why is Dan not talking about the new Pia or anything else? Well, we'll get to that. That was actually scripted differently, but you know, it's hard to find people that do that professionally and on a good level.
You're breaking up, Dan. You're breaking up. You've gone all small and quiet again. You're breaking up. I think I need a new co-host.
No, all good. So, my first pick of this week is the PRS Zach Myers SE guitar, which is a very nice looking guitar in, I think, Myers blue. And I mean, do you know the band Shinedown? I think they had a couple hits on the radio. Yeah.
Is that the band that did the cover of Metallica's song? No. Hang on. I'm saying yes.
Okay.
A little bit.
I think at least one or two songs they were on the radio even in Europe or let's say Germany, because I'm not talking for Europe, nor do I talk for Austria. But I absolutely adore that color. I'm a sucker for blue finishes anyways, and that guitar looks pretty sweet. You got a flame maple veneer on that, mahogany body. It's nicely carved. What else is there to say? And it's basically like a revamped version of the already existing Zach Myers model that was a little bit more greenish. Do we have another image? Nope.
It was there and it's disappeared. You know how it is with this podcast and tech, Dan.
It just vanished.
It says it's there, but it's not.
It's not. Yeah. Anyways, but it's
keep talking like nothing's happened, and I'll bring it in quickly. Just don't tell anybody.
Sure. Yeah. No. We're gonna keep that to ourselves and cut that afterwards. Okay. You haven't seen anything right there. Okay. All right. No. So transparent knobs. So that's pretty cool. And actually, I really find it interesting that PRS chooses to kind of color grade those images in such a dark way, because on other product images it looks much brighter.
True.
And I like that more like turquoise look. So I mean, that was basically really a visual decision. I like the looks of it, and I only have heard good things about the Zach Myers PRS SE. So if you're in the market for a semi-hollow PRS single cut guitar, that's your go-to probably. I think it's reasonably priced at 900 euros, so that's not too bad. And spec-wise, I mean, it's a completely no-frills instrument. You can go, probably it's gig ready right out of the case. So usually the SE instruments, they're good anyways.
Yeah. Do you know the price? Did you mention the price? And while I was fiddling around,
I already did 20 seconds before. I think it's 900.
I was watching the chat. 900 euros. All right. So you broke up. You have to. We've got other people applying for your job in the chat, so I'm just checking out the new applicants. And no one's mentioned any money yet, which is good. What would you like to go for next, Dan? Would you like to go for the
another single cut, probably?
Another single cut, really?
Yeah.
Oh, go on then.
Drum roll. Some people had already mentioned it. There it is. Several years in the making. Finally, we've got the AZS, and the S stands for single cut, and it's basically a kind of Ibanez-y take on the T-style instrument. And it's pretty cool to see those finally happen and hit the market, and also see the reactions. That's probably the best part. If you release a product, you're always a little bit unsure how people will react to it, but there were so many great reactions and so many positive feedback. It's definitely not a guitar for everyone. I don't think that you get the old traditionalist that only plays his original 1965 black Strat or anything like that, Tele. But it's definitely an interesting take, because they basically took the FR shape and kind of rounded it off and added some contours and some nice touches to it. And as so often, it was pretty much the same with the AZ line. The most amazing part is in the detail. So and it's pretty cool that we have two offerings. We have the Intune bridge, the Goto bridge, the vintage style Tele bridge, and then we have the Goto 1802 T tremolo that is also on the AZ guitars. So you have a modern T style guitar, and you have a more traditional guitar. Yeah, and I think we have another picture prepared that Tom Quayle made in his studio. And come on, I was so sold when I saw that. Isn't that cool?
That is, I mean, that finish was not the one that I preferred in that first photo, but looking at that shot, that is absolutely stunning. And you know, I'm more into plain tops than I am flame tops, but that's kind of subtle flame, but also not, you know, it's tigery.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
And that's the one that he has right now. Tom Quayle has it. He's been playing it and ripping it to shreds, I'm sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, and he loves it too. I mean, he will always sound like Tom Quayle, so he'll probably not sound like one of those country guys, but his tone on this guitar is amazing, and it's super comfy. The design is very nicely made, so it's a very modern take, and it's got all the cool specs that you would expect from the AZ line. You've got stainless steel frets, roasted maple neck. We've got a cool pickguard, not pickguard, like what's it called, like the base plate for the pickup, to make sure that it's got that really twangy tone. So it's got a steel base plate. And that base plate is kind of not combined with anything. So the tremolo is for itself, and also the go to Intune bridge is basically, they are two separate entities, which was important because we, like, from the get-go, we wanted to have a guitar that either has the tremolo or the regular vintage style bridge. So that was definitely a goal. And I'm pretty stoked about that. And I think I prepared a couple more features, because my go-to guitar would probably be the AZS 2209, which is the vintage bridge one. And what is so remarkable about that is, you can see it here in the picture, that Intune bridge that was developed in cooperation with Goto is so unique, because it's got grooves that have different sizes. So it's either a little bit thinner or thicker, or a little bit deeper or a little bit narrower, and that makes sure that intonation is spot on, and that you can also like have a very, very consistent string spacing. So you got the 10.5 millimeters that you expect from those kind of guitars, or from the AZ line, and that is made possible with that design. And there's also, I think there are two more pictures that I put in the folder that you can see. So you see that actually the strings itself, they are kind of concave. So you've got that kind of concave form, a little bit rounded off, so it makes it easy to play. And also on the second picture, you see that it's very evenly spaced, and you can clearly see the grooves, especially for the low E and the high E string. So it makes sure that these strings, they don't, disappear or slip to the sides, and you always have a very consistent string spacing. Yeah, and that's pretty cool, because Ibanez is always, or has always been, a company that's very dedicated to developing unique hardware, and this is definitely a USP in the market. Yeah. So
we got some questions. Sorry, Dan. We got some questions coming up in the chat.
Yeah, sure.
Again, if you have any questions, people in the chat, then please ask them. You've got Dan, the man, Dr. Dan, here for you to answer all those Ibanez questions. Please use them. I mean, I know Poo Ninja's going to ask when his Pia arrives, so we'll just expect that question, and the answer is very soon.
When does my Pia arrive? My Pia. When does Dan's Pia arrive?
Oh, and?
Mid of February.
Very nice. So that's very soon. That's in like a month, less than a month.
Yep.
We got some love from Sarang for the Goto Tele style barrels. I have a question whilst I'm just looking through the chat, Dan.
Yeah.
Why is it called the AZS when it could be called the AZT?
Yeah, probably because we wanted to develop a single cut guitar. It wasn't necessarily to be just a T-style clone. And also there is already the ATZ 100, which is the Andy Timmons signature AZ model. So that would have probably be a little bit confusing too. So
I agree. Okay, that's exactly what I guessed, but I have to ask you, because it's funny when you do Ibanez stuff, because you go into kind of Ibanez, Dan, but on the podcast you still stay human, Dan, but part of you goes to this little place.
The Ibanez Robert. No.
And yeah, it's just because you're so good at your job for Ibanez that you go to that little place. But let's look at these questions. People are saying the ashtray is a must. That's very interesting.
Yeah, that's actually what
I would agree, but I would love to play the trem version as well.
Yeah.
Of course, I'd love to hear Chris Barocci's take on the guitar. That's one of my upcoming favorites. I'll ask him at some point during 2021. Neck is square at the bottom? Question mark. Is the neck square?
No,
Like, is it?
The neck joint is the super all access neck joint. So I don't have a picture here of the back, but it's super nicely to access the upper frets. The only exception is one artist model that we're going to talk very soon about. Another question was, is prestige? Yeah, all of these are prestige, so they are made in Japan. The plain tops, they start at 2K, which is basically the same price as the AZ models, and then the flamey one is a little bit more pricier. I think it's 2.5K, and then there's a quilted maple top in royal blue sapphire, and that is 2.7 ish, around that. Yeah. So yeah, made in Japan.
Okay, so
you get what you pay for.
Very much so. But having played the AZ, the vintage AZs, which are now called the old school AZs, they are like next level in terms of quality. And like Nico Schliermann just plays one on stage all the time, and he just does the most different kind of gigs, and he's always got this AZ, which is, I think, a great promotion for the guitar to show you what it can do. So I'm very much looking forward to checking those out. My favorite color is the Prussian blue one, which we discussed already, Dan, you and I, off air. But now, having seen Tom's photo, I don't know, man. I do not know.
Yeah, the flamey one is pretty sexy, but still, I was sold on the hardware actually. So I really want to experience that because I'm not a tele player, anyways. So that will be interesting to see and hear, basically.
There are some more announcements from Ibanez because, fair play, I must say this on the podcast, Ibanez are absolutely killing the new releases in January. So well done from the entire guitar world for you, who is representing all of Ibanez right now.
Let's pass that to Japan and to the great people that were also developing new guitars with two of the most exciting artists at the moment, and one of them is the blues great Josh Smith. Oh. I was when I was browsing through pictures last night, I was browsing through a couple images from 2014, and I went to a small venue in Ingolstadt where Audi is located in Germany, and that's a small blues and jazz location called New World. And it must be early 2014, Josh Smith was playing there, a very small venue, and it was super loud. And he was playing his Chapin guitar, the black one that he's been using for many years, and it was a great gig. And Martin Miller and I were there. We're really we had a big smile on our face because the tone was so good, and it was just, he oozed the blues. And after the gig, we had together some food, and Josh was talking a little bit how the tour was going, and then he was like, "Oh, Dan, you live close by. Do you think we can go to your place and jam a little bit more?" And I was living in a very small apartment with people above and below me, so I had to decline, to tell you, dude, you're gonna crank up the amp and play. But it kind of showed me how much into playing and how much into music and how enthusiastic he was. Having played a 2 hours gig already, he was ready to just go to another rehearsal room or go to my apartment and crank up the amp and play the blues again. That was a great experience.
You turned down a jam with Josh Smith.
I did.
Because of your neighbors. Oh, mate.
Well, to be fair, I think he would have jammed more with Martin than with me, but still, I mean, that would have.
Yeah, but you could have held a tambourine, and then technically, if you were jamming with Josh, it doesn't matter what you do. It matters that you're there and you have a face in a photo somewhere.
I know.
Can I show some more photos?
Sorry?
Can I show some more photos of the guitar when you?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I kind of made up for that later with the Martin Miller sessions, because Josh joined the sessions, and there are a couple amazing songs. Still, their rendition of Sultans of Swing is one of my favorite versions of it. It's really nicely made. So, and Josh's got a guitar, and I like that guitar from top to bottom. It starts with the name. It's called the Flat V1, or basically the Flat 5. Which is the blue note.
Is that so clever?
Cool? The Flat 5-1, yeah. That's super clever. Yeah, actually, we kind of get used to call it the flat V because otherwise people might get confused and with the
Yeah, I think
numbers,
it's a
numbers and
five
numbers.
string, and
Yeah, Dan playing the triangle. Yeah, so so that's a great guitar because it's kind of it has the same roots like the AZS models, but it's so specific when it comes to the specs. The neck's got a soft V shape to it. It only has 21 frets. All the regular AZS models, they have stainless steel frets, but Josh decided to go for nickel because it's got a very specific feel and tone to it. The guitar carries his signature Seymour Duncan, Josh Smith, or how you call it, like flat 5-1 custom pickups that will also be available as aftermarket pickups, if I'm correctly informed.
nice.
Yeah, I think the only similarity, like 1-to-1, is it's got the same bridge like the AZS models that come with the vintage style bridge, and yeah, and it's got an ash body, which is kind of what Josh was asking for. So this is like his guitar from top to bottom. And there was a recommendation from my side. There's a very interesting, I think almost 1 hour video of him, like a live stream kind of thing, where he was presenting his guitar. I think that aired like Monday night.
Mm.
So
I
that
haven't
is
seen all of it, but I caught some of the. You sent me the link, and
yeah.
it was a very honest video. It was a very raw, clear video of the things that Josh was saying. It's very clear that he loves guitar, and has not gone to Ibanez and said that. How can I put this? He's been very good at promoting music and his love of guitar, not Ibanez, and not the guitar. But the guitar is helping him do that, and Ibanez is helping him do that. So that's what I really respected about Josh. The way he was talking about the guitar was not like, look at this great guitar. It was more a case of, I needed a guitar. This does it.
Yeah. Yeah, it took quite some time. I mean, I remember back in the day when we were driving to Martin's place, he was already talking about all the ideas that he had and what he had painted and the pickguard that he had designed and all those things. And I think ultimately, when all of this comes together, it kind of materializes into your instrument. And I mean, he was or still is in love with his Chapin guitar, and that is kind of the next level for him. And I mean, it's quite a difference too, because I think the Chapin guitar had a nitro finish, and this is a poly finish, because nitro finishes are so hard to make, and Ibanez is testing, experimenting with it, and going back and forth. But they really wanted to create like the most reliable instrument, so they went for a very thin poly coating. And Josh is pretty picky about his instruments and the spec of his instruments, and he went for it because he felt like, okay, this is the right choice for instrument. And yeah, I really like it. Also, like, it's got the square neck heel. It's just so true to the OG designs, but with a modern take. And it's really out of what is usually the comfort zone for Ibanez guitars. It's super retro.
Yeah, all right. You're not going to use the F word, but I won't either in that case. Yeah, I really dig it. What is the price of these, Dan? Because I really
Here's
want to try that.
I don't know at the moment. Currently, it looks like.
Come on.
No, I really don't know. Currently, it looks like it will be around 2.5K plus minus 100 euros. So it's pretty similarly priced to other signature guitars that are made in Japan, like the Tom Quayle signature, the Martin Miller signature, or the Andy Timmons ATZ. So along those lines, yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the accuracy. Gotta wait now for facts. I believe there was another very well-known artist that has joined the Ibanez ranks recently.
Larry, yo.
Yeah, I believe I have some photos of her. There she is.
Yeah, is that a lovely picture? That is great.
Damn, son.
Yeah, and actually, everyone was expecting us to release her sparkly AZ guitar, right?
Yeah. Where's the sparkly AC?
I know. Actually, that would have been a pretty nice guitar too, but she was involved in the AZS project pretty early on, and it was clear for her that she wanted to have that kind of single cut T-style design. And I mean, she took it from there and kind of modernized that a little bit more, compared especially to the Josh Smith model. So she went with an HSS configuration. Again, these are Seymour Duncan signature pickups. Don't know if they will be available if aftermarket pickups too, but I'd say it's pretty likely. And she also went for an ash body, so similarly to Josh. And what is pretty cool to see on that guitar is the beautiful bird's eye maple neck, because that really makes the guitar stand out. So you get that roasted maple neck that's carrying so many bird's eyes on it, and that's really a eye catcher. Yeah, yeah, I really dig it. I mean, the color, that's a matter of taste. If you're into violet pinkish guitars, I think for some people it will be a total downturner, but for some people it will be like the guitar they have to have. But I really like also the fine detail. Like if you can put on the next image, we see that there's a very fine binding that goes around the body, which kind of contrasts that violet. Because otherwise, without that binding, it would be way too violet. It would be almost violently violet.
Oh,
yeah. That was deep, I know. So I really like that. Also, the matching tip on the switch. That's pretty sweet. So. It's a cool guitar, nice addition, and above and beyond the guitar itself, it's super cool to have Larry Basilio on the roster, because she was one of the, let's say, up-and-coming artists. I really enjoyed listening to her music. It was something, between Joe Satriani and Andy Timmons, and that was totally my cup of tea. So, yeah, I dig it if artists join the Ibanez roster that I personally also listen to.
Questions about the guitar. 5-way switch?
Yeah.
What does the little toggle switch do?
That is the dynamic switching. So you have all the, like from the AZ line. The AZ line's got the two different voicings. So you have all the options that you know from the AZ line. Yep.
Okay. What I like about what Larry's done here is the jack output. So whereas I like the vintage look of Josh's, I really do love where the jack just below the strap button. I think it's a very cool, practical addition to a guitar. You're not going to really pull that out on stage. I think that's a great move. One of those little tiny details that I love about guitars that do that, and yeah, I love it. One thing I'm kind of missing is it a matching headstock?
No, it's a natural headstock.
I would have loved a matching headstock on that. I think that would look amazing. Not that I have an issue with what it does look like.
If you have a bird's eye maple neck, then chances are that there will be an insane number of bird's eyes also waiting for you on the headstock, right?
True. Yeah. True. Looks a very playable guitar from the back, the way that the contours are going on that neck joint. Great. Well done. Well done, Dan. On behalf of everybody, to everybody at Ibanez, good catch, good guitar looking. Yeah.
And that was a question when it will be available. I think both guitars, the LB1, also the Flat 5 one, will be available around July. So, yeah, expect them in Q3, basically. Yeah.
Q3, Q3 for all the people that aren't in the biz.
Yeah.
All right.
But they're being produced at the moment. Yeah.
Dan's third pick of the week.
Yes. Pick of the week. That's a nice addition, and I'm a sucker for awkward shapes if they are like visually pleasing and have a good aesthetic to it. And I was always a fan of the Mariposa. Maybe you can show the other image that we have in that folder. And
sure.
I think at the first show in Leipzig, first guitar show in Leipzig, they debuted the Mariposa, and that US model with an Okuma body looked very nice with the engraved scratch plate and everything. And it was an interesting guitar. It was a little bit overpriced to say, but it's always very subjective. But when it comes to American-made imported guitars, it's the same with amps like Mesa Boogie. Usually they, you have to add a little bit of margin for handling and for the distribution too. So that was definitely not like available or reachable for everyone. So I think that guitar clocked in at 3.5K, around that amount. So I'm not saying it's not worth it, but it was out of reach for a lot of people. So we have now a Sterling by Music Man guitar that clocks in at around $550, or let's say maybe 600, 700 euros. And I really love the idea that they went for that, because it's definitely a kind of odd shape, but I like it a lot. And they kind of kept it down to the key ingredients of it. I mean, the engraved scratch plate was cool, but you don't necessarily have to have that kind of pickguard. But the look itself, and I think the Rado green is the color. That's pretty cool. It's got locking tuners, 22 frets, also a roasted maple neck on the Sterling by Music Man. That's pretty cool. And the body is made of Niato, which is a interesting detail, because the original one was made of Okume, which are both kind of fresh and new woods in the biz. But yeah, that was my pick number 3, because I like Omar Rodriguez Lopez. He has done so many like great recordings with the Mars Volta, with John Frusciante, and so many cool people. And he's a true artist, and whatever he does is kind of unique. And basically, I think the guitars, they speak for themselves, and to have those available for the masses, and also for people that, that cannot afford like $2 or $3 grand for a guitar is pretty cool. Because I've totally been a sucker when I was a beginner, and you started with a cheap like $100 guitar, and then you want a real guitar, and then maybe your Omar is your guitar hero, and you can go for it. I mean, that's totally cool. And 500, 600 euros, it's kind of reasonably priced. Yeah. So that was my number 3 pick. How do you like it?
I'm really digging that, Dan. Yeah, totally digging it. I prefer the flat colors. I prefer the simplicity. On the more expensive one, I prefer the way the bridge looks. If I can just do that, this sort of high mass bridge. I don't know if it is a high mass bridge or there's just more cover, but it just looks amazing. It looks a lot like my Yamaha SGV.
Mm-hmm.
But I see that that's more practical. You've got a tram system. I like that it's got like a sort of a little bit St. Vincent sort of kind of squariness to it.
Yeah, a little bit of Albert Lee,
but also
right?
Albert Lee. Yeah, it's like those two had a baby and then sort of injected a bit of Firebird. There's a bit of Gibson Firebird in that pickguard and lower horn. I like it. I like the colors. I'd be interested to hear what it sounds like. And I love the truss rod adjustment at the bottom of the neck. I really dig guitars that have that. It's very, very practical. Very practical. Go! I tell you what, Dan, we are doing Sensible Podcast this week. What's happened?
I don't know. It was probably real news
very
to talk
sensible.
about.
I've just realised that I wasn't just talking to my friend Dan. We were actually doing a podcast, and I got super geeky. I just put in a little girl laugh just to. There we go. There's a fake one just to make sure that we're actually doing a podcast.
It's the real thing.
Now, the first one was real. The second one was a fake. I totally faked it.
Yeah.
Dan, I would like to talk about... well, before we go to our main topic, I'd like to go to our sponsor.
Mm-hmm.
Our sponsor of the month of January is Amplitube 5, coming to you from IK Multimedia. It's a plugin, it's a software, it's brand new. It was dubbed by some the best guitar plugin of 2020, apparently. Not me, because I haven't really delved into it that far. So far, I'm very, very impressed. And the guitar plugin market is quite competitive these days. But we're entering we have entered a new era of guitar plugins where they actually start to sound reliable, the latency is low, there's a good collection. I have the Amplitube Max, as does Dan. Dan, have you been checking it out in the last week, or have you been totally building your house?
I have been building my house. I have been building the catalog, the EU catalog for Ibanez 2021. I have been shooting videos for Music Aboard, Guitar Forum, about news. I was super busy, but I am so stoked to try it out, because last time I played around with Amplitube must have been like 2015, 2014, 15-ish. So it's been a while already. So thanks for the code, and we can talk next week about my experiences.
No pressure, but I've been sending you memes all week of rubbish, stupid things and Star Wars memes, and you've not been so responsive this week, Dan. It's almost as if you have a life. Terrible.
Yeah.
Going on.
Talking about memes, did you receive any memes?
I received a total of 0 memes.
What is wrong, people? Seriously.
Dan is asking because last week we wanted to give away a copy of Amplitube to one of you lucky listeners. And I'm reading the chat right now. Valeria forgot to send a meme. She didn't send any memes. So, do you know, Valeria, had you sent a meme, you would have been the only person, and therefore, by default, you would have won yourself a copy of Amplitube 5.
So this week we're giving away 2 then, right?
Next week we're going to give away 2. So if you fancy 2, maybe give 2 to the same person, just so you can show off bragging rights.
Look, I've got 2.
2 codes.
The more
all you
memes
have to do
send,
to
the
win,
better the chances are.
all you have to win is guess the code. It's only 12 digits. No. Yeah, so let's give away 2 next week. Let's ask in the chat, do we think the meme challenge was too difficult? Do we think it was too much work? Do we think it was too boring? Not that I'm saying it is, Dan, excuse me if you think that's where I'm going, but I want to know why no one sent us any memes. Yeah, you too.
Oh, come on.
Michael Lerner already has Amplitube 5. I know
Here's
that.
the big thing,
So
Michael. You can participate and just give it away to a friend of yours, so you can share your experience and have fun together, right?
Sure, you could give it away to someone in the live chat, and then it'd be like this meta Amplitube giveaway on the podcast.
Imagine just how much karma points you will add if you give away a copy of Amplitube 5, because these people will have a lot of fun with it. Just saying.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dan, what are the rules for winning the Amplitube code for next week? We're giving away 2. Is it the same? Is it meme-ish?
It is meme-ish. Same rules apply like last week. If you want to win a copy or 2 of Amplitube 5, just create a funny meme either with Andy, me, or the both of us that is centered around a guitar-centric topic. And send it either tag us on Instagram or send it to guitarstoriespodcast@gmail.com, or post it on Facebook and tag Andy and me, or stalk us. I don't know. Just send it to us somehow.
Technically, Dan has 2 addresses now, so there's twice as much chance of finding him.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
So if you're stalking Dan, then you've got your job's just made 50% easier, 200% easier. One of those 2. I don't do maths, but not right now. Not on a Tuesday night. I'm looking at a spaceman stood in front of an amp. I don't know what is going on with my life, but I want you to experience Amplitube 5 because I truly dig it. It's opened my world of recording guitar, and I mean personally recording guitar, because I've got stuff for the channel and things, but it's really nice to just plug in and bring up a patch called Run Like Dave or something like that. And so tag us, Guitar Stories Podcast. Technically, you could post a meme of anything right now. That would be better than nothing. I'm surprised that you guys haven't put the work in, and I'm not angry, but I am disappointed.
Yep.
Speaking of digital stuff, Dan, and guitars, it kind of leads us into our main topic.
Yes.
Okay, we've got the chat on screen now for the first time, really, through in the podcast. So we came up with this topic, and I know people are dying to know our views on it because it's quite a strange one. Digital gear, is it going to become obsolete? Is it as good an investment as analog gear? Dan, what's the answer? Yes or no?
All right. Well, no. Case solved.
Okay, right. That's it then.
No, it's very difficult to answer that. I was actually having a hard time when I was thinking about the topic. But that was actually an inspiration from one of our listeners in the podcast.
Yes.
I forgot the name, so let me look that up. But I really like if people approach us and want to discuss stuff that we can do in the podcast and we can talk about in the podcast. And he was very enthusiastic about that, and went back and forth about the pros and cons. So it's super cool. It was Matt. Yeah. So yeah. It's a very, very difficult topic because it's so diverse. So is is your digital gadget becoming the next Furby? I don't know. It depends what you bought. If you bought a, let's say, Kemper amp 10 years ago, it's still fine. If you bought some sort of plugin or software that is connected with some kind of device, is probably not working because your OS is outdated now. I think I have a couple of those.
Great choice of sponsor, Andy. Well done, Andy.
Yeah, no. I'm not like. I'm pretty sure the Amplitube will still work, but there are like often you need like additional devices that you plug in USB, so you can either plug in the microphone and stuff like that. And most often those kind of hardware devices that are connected to the software, they are not like indefinitely usable. So when there's a big update with the OS for Apple or even for Windows, sometimes it doesn't work anymore. So yeah, I bought like 2 or 3 of those already just to plug into USB and record the guitar. What about you, Andy? What's your like initial take to just like have a starting point for the discussion?
My initial take is that I grew up as a guitar player when digital guitar stuff came around as I was growing up as a young player. And I remember being in a studio in Bristol when I was in my very mid to late teens, and there was one of these. And if you're listening to us, this is the Line 6 Pod, the ultimate guitar direct box. And I saw it on the desk in this studio, and I thought, my first thought was, what the heck is that? And then I had no concept of what something like this could be, because I had a Marshall Valvestain amp, had a few, like 3 pedals, and and one of those was a tuner probably. And this was in the session when we were recording our much highly successful, highly requested album at the time. And yeah, imagine being a guitar player from a tiny village and then coming across something like the Pod, which has actually got a lot of features in it. It's got at least, there's 12 effects and 12 amp models at least. There's more than that. We've got the standard bass treble and middle. Anyway, to get to the point, I plugged into it and it didn't sound awful, because I knew nothing different. And my knowledge of tone and anything was like, if it's loud, it's good. Back then, that was my my review. Is it loud? Yes, it's good. Then we ended up using the effects of that in the effects loop of some of the recordings. So a real amp, but some of the effects from the Pod, and I was blown away because of the possibilities. However, I am going to revisit this on the channel soon. I haven't plugged it in since back then and see how it sounds. I know that people still use the Pod, and in fact, someone in the chat says they still have a Pod 2, and it still rocks their world. I've used updated pods. I used a Pod XT Live for many, many years live, because I had to fit all the gear into a car and we were touring. My hot take on the digital stuff is that this is the first year, and I'm counting the latter end of 2020, that I believe that plugins sound good. Of course, we're sponsored by Amplitube 5. This is not a sort of way to push that upon people. I also heard the Gojira plugin from Neural, and
how's that?
It's insane.
All right.
I saw the marketing video, and it's a great video, and it's one of the first videos from a marketing point that actually made me want to get the product. Because I see a lot of that, and I can see behind the curtain. And this, I had to download it straight away. I downloaded the 14-day trial, and my goodness, it is good. Yeah, so that Amplitube 5, GuitarGeek 6, I know these are plugins, but they're all very, very good these days.
Do you want me to reveal a secret? Our intro music was recorded using plugins.
No.
You would not have guessed, right?
We are so unauthentic, not authentic.
Not authentic.
Oh, man. All right. No, I mean, it sounds good in a mix. Okay, let's go there, Dan. If I know I've not answered the question, but there's a point that I've written down in my notes is that in a mix, not many people can tell.
Mm-hmm. Especially in a band
for the
situation.
Whole world there.
Yeah. Fully agreed. I'm like, I'm torn here because I'm completely with you. The quality, like the sound quality that those plugins and the Kempers and even the Cortex and Pods X3 and whatever, what they achieve is second to none. And going back like 10 years, you thought that your little red kidney was the hot shit. But if you AB that with what's possible nowadays, you would just throw it right out the window. With that said,
well, I also,
I think
that's the Cab M Plus from Two Notes. Sorry to jump in on you there. That truly is mind blowing. That truly is a top piece of gear.
Yeah.
And I think it might actually. I'm going to combine that with the Pod to try and give the Pod a new lease of life. I think that might be interesting to combine old gear with new gear.
That sounds pretty interesting. The only like let me just finish that up because I think the only like drawback that there is that kind of digital stuff gets released much quicker, and yesterday's plugin is kind of already boring at some point, and also like the latest XFX is not as good as the new one, and it kind of leads us to that kind of like unhealthy cycle that every year or every other year a new iteration of the product gets released, and it's not like you bought a old vintage, or back in the day you bought an old Marshall and it will still be the cool thing today. It's now that digital stuff kind of gets so much better and evolves in such a quick way that it kind of gets outdated pretty quickly. And if you get into a situation that is like the latest iPhone and you always want and have to have the new shit, it's for me it's not really something that I identify myself with, because I want to have a lot of fun for my gear for a long period of time. And also I think investment wise it's kind of difficult to judge whether it's a good investment or not, because it's not cheap at all, and usually that kind of gear can easily cost between 800 to 1500 2k. So it's a substantial investment, and for that kind of substantial investment I want substantial fun. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. That is the basis of everything I play. Does it make me want to play? Am I enjoying playing guitar? I don't even necessarily need to understand what is going on with the product at first. If it's making me have fun with the guitar and therefore creative, because if anything's not fun, it's not creative. And of course, some things it has that fun factor of we don't know why. So when we were talking about I think it was said in the chat, the lay listeners. Sarang said the lay listeners, the audience, the people listening that don't play an instrument and don't know that there's a digital thing behind, even the actual musicians in the audience. But as a player, this is the point for me where digital gear needs to be good, or any gear for that matter. But if you're not getting the response as a player, this is what I'm talking about the new digital gear, the new plugins. There's a few amps out as well, the Strymon pedals are digital and they sound phenomenal. The Flint that I have, I don't think I'll ever get rid of it. I don't see it's got the perfect amount of reverb and tremolo. I don't think I ever need to replace that. I will at some point because I love gear. But if I'm honest with myself, because you and I approach things very, very differently, in the sense that you are very good with money, very good at investing, good at making financial choices, and all those things are things that I'm not. And I am being friends with you. I'm learning from being friends with you. But like, okay, maybe I don't need to do that. Maybe I should just, not. I'm not going to give away your secrets, that we talk about off air. But Dan knows his stuff. And if you need advice, then I'm sure Dan has an hourly rate. But
I was just wanting to make sure that, like, when you are old and grumpy and you still need a couple dollars or a couple euros, that there's still something left. Because nowadays you got to be pretty careful with where your money goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But So what I'm
I
trying to
received
say
the
is,
first meme. Amazing.
you know what? Live on air. Who's it from?
John C. sent me a meme, and I'm going to show that live on air. It
Oh
says,
my goodness.
oh boy. It says, my meme. And it's definitely the worst meme I've ever seen.
I
But
love
it's
it.
also
It's
the
so
first
bad.
one that we received. So thank you very much. You're in.
It's so bad it's good, which kind of leads me to my little segue. 80s stuff, which has also come up in the chat today. 80s rack units are fashionable again, kind of.
Yeah.
So I don't know how this is, but I've been looking at stuff on Reverb, and I looking at stuff in the local classifieds. I've got such an interest in why people are loving this rack gear, because I don't think it could possibly sound as good as we remember it to, or as good as the new gear. But there's this je ne sais quoi, this lore, this story behind it, you know? Oh, it was used on this album, so therefore we got to get it, you know? There's a resurgence and things come around. And it interests me so much how a piece of gear can be $30, and then say Josh Scott releases a video on it and says, actually, this was actually pretty good. And then suddenly the prices rocket for X amount of months and then goes back down.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, I think there's some history attached to it. Let's take, for instance, the Marshall JMP1. When you talk
Absolutely.
about Rex, nobody really wanted to have that thing around the 2000s. You could get it for that cheap, but nowadays it's kind of hot commodity again. People are looking for that kind of 19-inch rack effect again, because it has been played on so many albums. I think Metallica used it, and a couple other artists too. So it's kind of on vogue again. And it's like, I mean, our business is going in waves too. Sometimes it's the hot shit, and sometimes nobody's really taking, notice. So I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, you know. Oh, Michiel, thanks for the super chat. That's $2 for Andy's coffee.
Thank you. $1 each. Hey, Dan, I owe you like about $7 now, so just so you know.
Oh wow!
I'm keeping my list somewhere. There it is. There's the list there. Look.
Very good.
Oh, I lost the list. The list is gone. The list has gone. Okay, it's all mine. We're gonna buy a Prosecco because it's 25th episode. Sorry to interrupt you. 25th episode celebration.
Prosecco.
I have. Yeah. What do I have? I actually have a throat lozenge I could throw at the camera. Anyway.
There you go.
Thank you, Michiel. That's very kind of you. There is some great gear that still has life in it, but trying to think, right? Is it actually tone, or is it just legend, you know?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, you can make great music. Like Periphery used the pod for recording an album. Mark Knopfler is nowadays using the Kemper amps, and I don't know. Especially like if I have to deal with a lot of touring artists that used to go on tour when there was no pandemic, and they kind of gravitated more and more towards traveling light, because shipping costs were super expensive. So you wouldn't play with a 4x12. You would take your XFX and just go there and play. And also oftentimes you have only like a couple minutes to get ready for stage, so there's only a line check, and you got to have your shit together basically. And that's what I think why digital is so much like growing in importance, because it's good, it's reliable, and like I said, it's probably 98 or 99%, and that's good enough. But on the other hand, would you play a gig just with your iPad or with your smartphone? Just plug in and play for a whole gig? I wouldn't feel comfortable with that.
That's a great question, and I've never had the opportunity or necessity. However, I have seen. So I'm eating that throat lozenge because it was staring at me. I have seen a Tina Turner tribute act, which was great, and the guitar player from that was an absolute shredder. He was awesome, which was weird because he was shredding all over this Tina Turner stuff. But because I was the guy that booked him, I went on the stage like, what is this guy using? It sounds amazing. And he was using one of the softwares, I think Amplitube 4 or 3 it would have been, on a tablet, no, on a laptop. Sorry, I'm correcting myself because it was such a long time ago, but he was using a laptop with an audio interface, and we're talking 11 years ago, give or take. And it sounded phenomenal through this great big PA, and there was a drummer, and there was some stuff was on backing track, and his tone, and there's Nutbush City Limits. Do you know the song from Tina Turner? And there's this great, and I love that tone. It's one of my favorite guitar tones ever, and he pretty much nailed it. And I was like, what is he using? That's the thing that made me go up, because it was this wah sort of envelope effect, and it was some kind of plugin, which again I think was a laptop-based Amplitube 3. He nailed it for the live show. You did not need any more, and then he just sort of closed his laptop, put his guitar in his case, and off he was. It then took an hour putting the PA system away, because he had this big Martin PA that he was so proud of. So he kind of, didn't really solve his issue of gear, but yeah, it was an eye opener for sure.
Like my worst nightmare with that kind of setting would be that, like, in the gig you get that Windows sound or Mac sound. Bing! Please update your Mac OS or update your system.
Yeah, I don't know if I could trust it. I've even done a gig. I've done a gig with a battery-powered pedal board power supply, and the whole gig even though I knew the thing was charged, I tested it multiple times. I could not focus on the gig because I was worried about this battery running out, which was ridiculous. But it was just the fact that it was new to me, So another question I had in my notes is, people that are just starting guitar, are they more comfortable with using plugins, digital equipment, as opposed to, say, you or I, or players even older than us, who are more used to using more traditional gear? Now, let's forget analog versus digital right now. Do you understand what I mean?
Absolutely. I think I couldn't agree more, because I think these guys will be the kind of digital guitar natives. They grow up with those kind of cool tools, with apps where you can slow down the song that you're rehearsing, and you've got so many great, like, little helpers that will enable you to grow even faster than if you had to put the needle on the record back in the day. With that said, I mean, like you said, there's a lot of history involved, and once they dive deeper into the material of their preferred artist, they'll probably figure out that there is some analog magic to some of what's been recorded. And there's like, if you have a big cabinet and it moves air, it actually is a very uplifting feel, and it can make you smile much more than if you have, like, headphones on and you have a great tone, but it's not like the immersion isn't there. It's like, because it's still, music is moving air, and I want to feel it to some degree. So basically, for me personally, if that's like my takeaway from that, is like, I like both, but it's got to be a good mixture. And like you said, I wouldn't be comfortable with playing a gig with just a laptop. And it wouldn't satisfy me if there was no, at least a small cabinet in the back where I can feel a little bit of that music.
As I mentioned earlier, I did gig for a few years with a pod, a Line 6 Pod XT, and I never felt like I was playing real music. And that's not because it was the setup we had. We had the smallest possible move. It was a covers band. It was for money. It was my job. And every gig, I did not feel that I was playing a real amp. Neither was I trying to. But the audience were always dancing. I always got paid, and I always had fun, and I didn't need to worry about something being too loud. So even though my tone wasn't great, in my opinion, nobody ever complained. We played the right songs at roughly the right tempo with some of the right words, and some of the right notes even. And people had a fun time. And I think sometimes we can get, as guitar players particularly, we're particularly guilty of this, getting too hung up on tone and not actually about what music is for, which I believe is bringing people together, enjoyment, and feeling something that you cannot feel without music. So yes, you and I both work in the industry, and we're trying to, bring new things to the world, of course, and that's our job. That's how we put food on the table. But ultimately, it has to be about that core thing of enjoyment and fun. And some people's fun comes from buying a new guitar, like the new stuff we've talked about today. Just the colors. Some people get ultimate joy from, say, Larry Basilio's guitar. Just looking at that thing, the color is beautiful. It makes me feel good. I probably wouldn't buy it, but it makes me feel good. Yeah, I'm just going to get off my soapbox for a second. I've just addressed the world, put everything correct. That's me, yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I hear you. It doesn't matter what tools you're using, as long as you're having fun, and as long as you're creating music and kind of can get lost in that, because you can easily get lost in all the technical details and the manuals and all that stuff. But that's not really what I want to do. I want to grab a guitar and play. And I think that was mentioned earlier in the chat, that I think nowadays a big plus is also that manufacturers have kind of realized that they don't want presets that work for them. They don't want like a show off, okay, this is the ultimate delay. No, they want a very subtle delay. Or they don't want the ultimate gain. No, they want a gain that's working to play AC/DC and play Metallica. So having those kind of more, let's say, reasonable and usable presets already pre-installed, it makes things a lot easier, and you get that kind of instant gratification from a lot of digital devices. Whereas if you buy a new Mesa, it's probably one of the best, it's one of the best amps in the world, but you have to have trained ears to really get a good tone to dial that in properly.
Absolutely.
And plus every gig is different. I've been playing a lot of gigs with my Boogie Transatlantic and Triple Crown, etc. In every single venue, I had to dial in completely fresh. I mean, there was no like steadiness where I could say, okay, a similar location, it's probably like this. No, listen to your ears, maybe turn around and dial in the tone that you like. And with a digital device, it's very stable. Basically, if you use a Kemper, you can put your stuff on a USB stick and just walk away. And you can go on a plane and play a gig somewhere in South Africa or South America or something, and you have your tone on a USB plug. And that's probably the main USP that I would take for digital stuff, that it's very consistent and also very portable, and it kind of gives you a lot of instant gratification.
Couldn't agree more. And I have to give props to Kemper right now, because they have kept it true to their original model. So if you bought a Kemper years ago, they're still going with the same model. It's been updated with firmware and things, but it's not been forced obsolescence, which of course we see in the smartphone business, where I'm running an iPad right now. It started to slow down. I've been through 3 iPads in my iPad journey, and this one started to slow down for no reason whatsoever. I understand the computing technology behind it, and I understand that I'm currently running a browser watching the podcast to make sure that everything's working fine. That should be fine for a computer of this size, this power, sorry. It isn't. It started to misbehave.
Yep.
The Kemper doesn't. Certain things don't. The pod doesn't, So this forced obsolescence is something I find infuriating, and I don't see anybody that would back that up. And actually, there's some news. I'm not sure if you heard this, Dan, in the EU, that forced obsolescence is now becoming, I'm not sure illegal, but certainly a problem. So companies are not allowed to force obsolescence. I'm really on my soapbox today. Are you going to go somewhere with that, or go Dan, take it away. Sorry.
Well, I didn't have to too much to add. Basically, I was just wanted to make a point that it's all about the customer support and keeping your gear alive. And one of the prime examples you just mentioned is probably Kemper, that are selling pretty much the same product for 10 years now. And other companies, they will also still support their hardware and software. And this is like the key point. If people kind of understand that you take your product seriously and you're going to support that for a like reasonable amount of years, then it's much more likely that they will make a substantial investment because they know they're getting a lot of fun throughout those next, let's say, 10 years. Whereas if you have something and you got to be afraid that next year it's already obsolete and it's no longer supported because you didn't buy the latest iPhone or something. I find that difficult, and I don't really support that. And also, I'm not a big fan. We've talked about that earlier when we've been talking about Christmas presents. I'm not a big fan of throwaway stuff, because I don't want to see instruments or other gear being built to just throw it away after a couple months. I really want that kind of longevity, and because it's resources, and nowadays more than ever those resources are scarce, and they're very, very valuable. And I'd love to if there would be more companies like be very committed to create sustainable products that can be used over a long period of time. They can be more expensive, no problem, but they got to like hold to that promise to kind of be usable throughout a couple of years and not be obsolete in a couple months. So that's my take.
Sure, I'd like to what's the word? I'd like to talk about, that'll do. Talk about some of the things that have come up in the chat. One of the things that's we mentioned our good friend Henning, who this is something I was going to mention earlier about the fact that multi-effects and cheap digital products are a great introduction to what effects do. So it's very easy for us to sit here and say, oh yeah, flanger and chorus this and delay that and phaser that. But if you're brand new to the guitar world, that is complete gobbledygook. So, I mean, I learned in that studio session, to go back to the pod again, I kind of learned, it says flanger 1 and flanger 2, for example. And I didn't know what that was. I wouldn't have any idea that there was more than one kind of flanger. And it says delay swell. No idea what that was. And I plugged it in, twiddled the knob, and then I kind of found out. And again, you train your ears. The same to do with software. Like I use Logic, and Logic on the Mac, and I paid $200 for that. And then it comes with some plugins for the guitar. They're not wonderful, but if someone started GarageBand, all this stuff, if you plug into that, you can have an ID, you can have an introduction to the wonderful world and deep, deep hole that is pedals.
Couldn't agree more.
Yes. Mr. RJ Ronquillo is in the chat. He took part in the NAMM stuff this year. I really much enjoyed that. Hello, everybody. What else was I going to go to the chat for? I was actually I was trying to scroll on the video itself rather than on the chat. We're coming up to the hour and a half into the podcast, which means that Andy's going to start talking even more rubbish now. Max Solo Music. Max is or was in the chat, and he says that he's played a couple of musical productions using a laptop and Line 6 KB37 for both guitar and synth sounds, and it worked just fine 8 years ago. Fantastic. Great news.
Yep. Very brave.
But
very brave.
Yeah, for shows and things, when you're in the pit in front of a stage, you don't have the space. You don't have the luxury of having an amp.
Yep.
I made the mistake of buying a Marshall JCM 800 series. Never got it past 3, I think. I think I mentioned that on the podcast before. Totally useless. Absolutely flipping useless. And I went back to using the Pod XT Live. But for a few weeks, for a few seconds, I felt super cool. Yes, ka-ching, nothing.
Yeah. But Max, I gotta give props to Max, because he's always at the forefront when it comes to those kind of small and neat devices. I think we did a live stream back in the day in the showroom, Ivan's showroom, where he had that pedal board with all the streaming stuff already pre-configured and pre-installed, and that was pretty smooth. So if you're one of those techie guys that's very kind of pioneering that stuff, hats off for that, because you really kind of push the boundaries to show us what you can do with that stuff. But like I said, if you're playing a 4 hours gig and there's an audience waiting in front of you and they want to dance, they want to have fun, and then ultimately you have to say, okay, we gotta wait 10 more minutes until my window's been updated. That's nothing I'd be comfortable with. So yeah, but Max, you show us the way. You show us what's possible, and that's pretty cool.
Yeah. Another thing that I have You stole the idea from Andy's crazy. Yeah, people steal my ideas all the time, Max. Ryan. Another thing is that with old technology such as the pod, I mean, goodness, the prices of pods are going to rocket after this podcast. There's another one that you can buy from like places like AliExpress and Amazon, where they've taken a pod like the Pocket Pod as well and made it really tiny because processors and circuit boards have got smaller and there are more possibilities to fit these things into smaller housing. You can now get the same technology that was in the old big technology in small technology. And that's really fun. And it costs about $20, which is ridiculous. So back to what we said about people learning about effects, learning about things, that's a no-brainer. $20 is anybody's possibility. Back to the headphones we mentioned at the beginning. The Vox headphones, they're, I don't know, would they go obsolete? I don't think they get updated.
Yeah, probably not obsolete, but you probably prefer something different tone.
You might outgrow them, yeah. You might outgrow them, but some other thing I wanted to say was about when you plug into digital stuff, it's a computer, so it has to start up. I hate waiting for things to start up. I hate waiting for programs to load. I hate waiting for anything. I hate looking through menu systems. Going back to the days when I first started playing guitar, it was Boss DS1, Big Muff, Crybaby, whatever amp was available and whatever guitar was in tune, roughly. And with that setup, if I wanted a clean sound, bang, done. If I wanted a really heavy sound that was, really thin, I'd go for the Boss DS1. If I wanted to be not heard in a mix, Big Muff. There we go, So, but I could do it instantly. And that's the thing. I didn't even have a switcher. Like, we have these pedal switches now and pedal boards. Back then I didn't. It was just thrown on the floor and put in a plastic bag at the end of the gig. And so, but my point is, the more complicated something gets, the less fun I have with it.
Yeah.
Not always, but often, because I have to invest the time in learning it, and that's not always easy.
Actually, I'd be interested in the gear that our listeners and viewers have. So if you have like pictures of your digital gear, feel free to tag us, because that'll be interesting to see what you guys are using. Are there still a couple people that are using the Red Kidney, the OG pod, or the other people that have a very fancy X Effect 3 going on? Show us what digital game you've got going.
Sorry, I'm just absolutely. I want to see more stuff happening with tagging us. We're saying this every week, and no one's doing it.
No one's doing it.
I'm laughing at Old Man Zen's comment saying, "Jesus, Andy, you're talking like you're 80 years old," which I guess I am. I know my soapbox has been making several appearances tonight, and I've stood on it, but I haven't lived that many years, but I've lived many different lives. Again, to be poetic, I've had so many different lives and so many different jobs and lived in so many different places. I feel like I've so far had a very full and well-enjoyed life. And when I say those things, I'm genuinely going back to like, where was I living? What was I doing? What gear was I playing? And in fact, I remember more about my life when I know about the guitars and the gear that I had than I do anything else. Oh, that's odd. I've just realized that. Yeah, but apparently we've had some stuff into the Guitar Stories podcast DMs, Dan. Have you checked any of that? I've seen it come up several times on the chat, in the Instagram DMs. I think Valeria sent one.
Yeah, Valeria
I can't remember who else sent one.
Oh, there's another meme.
We've got at least
don't
2
play
memes.
With the electric outlet, they say you can get hurt. But I want to rock and have a cool throw. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. I like that.
It's kind of hard to be seen. So you got a kid playing around near to the power outlet, and mom is saying, "Don't play with it. You can get hurt." And then ultimately, you look like Andy, and you have a great throw. That's nice.
It takes a lot of
very nice.
A lot of work, a lot of voltage, a lot of amps to look like this. And you have to sleep hanging upside down, of course, because you can't sleep on your throw. That's a nightmare sometimes.
Can you actually wear headphones anymore? Is there still space left?
Not really. I will show you, for you and viewers of the podcast, that it kind of works, but everything sounds kind of fuzzy. Ow, 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 ow. And getting them on and wearing them is fine. Taking them off, not so easy.
you could like do after like adding some of the fro hairs to the headphones so they would blend in perfectly with the rest of the fro. That'll be nice.
Hairphones.
Hairphones, there you go. You know, like the Princess Leia kind of things that you can put on, that ear warmers. Yeah, you got the hairphones.
Yeah, I haven't seen my ears in like 7 months. So they're roughly in the middle somewhere. Well,
nice.
I'd love to know if anyone in the chat has any more points about the digital stuff. I didn't expect us to answer the question. Like, it wasn't even really a question. It's just kind of the topic, and I've really enjoyed discussing it with you, Dan. And I'm glad that I've come to my final conclusion is that it's the same one I always make. If something's fun and it inspires me to make something that's fun and enjoyable, then it has to be good.
Agreed. Approved.
Approved. Tick.
No, seriously. Like if you have a piece of gear that has a good sound, it's a keeper, and go for it, no matter what the price tag was. So yeah.
Ooh, and also not to write off a piece of gear you've never tried.
Of course. I mean,
because that happens, doesn't it, Dan?
Yeah.
And people say that's rubbish.
You should try Amplitube 5 before you talk about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Dan. No, I was talking about a certain exchange we had with somebody online recently.
Oh, yeah. There you go. Yeah.
That I won't go into, but firstly, don't bash somebody else's gear choice, but also don't bash something you've never tried just because you read it on a forum that it's rubbish back in 2014.
Yeah. Even if you tried something years ago, especially in the digital game, I mean, the progress all those devices make is just insane. So you got to try like the recent stuff and then judge from that. Yeah. With that said, the recent stuff. Have you heard the recent record of John Gom? The Faintest Idea?
Let's say no, Dan, just so we can. No, Dan. Why did you bring it up?
You could have said yes too.
Okay, then yes. Why did you bring it up?
Well, because the show is kind of nearing its end, and I just wanted to make a point that we have a guest next week.
We do. Who could it be?
Well, I already said it. Guys, next week we will have on the podcast the incredible, the inspiring, the album dropping, modern fingerstyle playing, and just awesome human being, John Gom. How cool is that, right?
I'm super looking forward to that. Yeah, that's totally out of my guitar world. I enjoy his music because I don't know how he does what he does. For me, that is music because I'm not trying to understand what it is he's doing. I'm just listening and enjoying. Yep. So I'm super interested on talking with him. I hope he has a great guitar story. He has to, but he seems like a nice guy as well. So it's always nice to hang with nice people.
Yeah, and if any one of you guys has specific questions to John, let us know. Like, send us a DM or an email so we can ask that question. Because it might get a little bit confusing or unruly in the chat if we answer too many questions with him, because we want to know his guitar stories too. So send us your questions ideally in advance and we'll ask it. I've got so many questions too about how he does his recordings, how he make his sound so appear so big, and how he plays his guitar, and it's just he's like an incredible musician, but also in a similar vein, a big question mark to me, and I want to, ask a lot of questions. So yeah.
Yes, yeah. I know so little about him and how he does what he does. I'm super excited. I think it's the first guest we've had where I already don't know so much about them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
that's probably not even accurate, but it feels that way. Okay, Dr. Dan. I've had a wonderful time with you chatting guitar gear, and thank you to all the people that have watched live and contributed to the podcast this week. Also, we've had the highest amount of people in the live chat we've ever had, and that means a lot. So thank you for helping us grow the podcast, because we're here because we have fun, and it's nice to talk guitar geeky stuff with you guys. So thank you for coming back, and I hope you'll join us again next week for John Gom. Dan, do you want to give us a quick Instagram little shout out, and I will play the end credits.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys, for making this a happy place. As usual, it's like the most positive podcast that there is. If you enjoyed that, please follow us on Instagram, the Guitar Stories Podcast. Follow Andy at TheGuitarGeek or me at Dan140683, which is pretty similar to the Ibanez Q numbers. I just figured that out. Funny side note to myself. Apart from that, if you listen to that as a podcast, if you don't mind giving us a 5-star rating on iTunes, that would help us a lot to be more visible. Thanks to all the viewers and the listeners. I think we've been streamed in more than 33 countries already, which is amazing. Apart from that, looking forward to next week. Looking forward to seeing you again. Thanks, Andy, for taking the time. Thanks for the inspiration to all of you. And have a nice week. Play the guitar, and see you very soon.
I love it. All right. Love you guys. I'll see you soon. Bye, Dan.
Bye.
Guitar Stories Podcast, your #1 show for every